Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, James Protin. Every week I will be sharing the experiences that have defined my journey and talking with people who have their own powerful story to tell. It's about doing better and being better in life, business, and all things in between. The visually inclined can catch us on YouTube, or you can check us out on just about every podcast platform. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. We are coming to you from Chico Bocello, our home away from home in Canonsburg, PA. And our guest today is the one and only Melanie Taylor. Welcome.
That's an introduction. Thank you.
That's the only thing I do well.
I mean,
it's like my best thing.
That was really impressive.
That's my best thing.
Yeah, I don't get an introduction like that with Bubba, my co-host. I'll take yours, James.
We got to talk to Bubba.
Yeah,
we have to have a conversation with him.
It's simply just called the Bubba Show, not the Melanie Show.
Yeah,
but today
I was going to ask you about that. Where's my Melanie at? This is like,
I know, it's
the
a thing.
Bubba Show. What's that all about?
I secretly think something contractually when he was negotiating a contract, he put something in there, and I talk about this on the radio, that the show can only be called the Bubba Show. And now it's binding, whatever that means. He denies. I think that's the case, but I could be wrong.
Well, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
At least he says that, I'm an okay co-host, and when I'm gone, everything falls to you know what. So I guess he gives me some.
That's good. I mean, being an
credit.
Okay co-host is like, yeah, that's high praise.
Right? After 27 years, I'm an okay co-host.
But at least he hasn't come and told you that you stink.
No, not yet. That's true.
I mean,
that's happened to you?
Yeah, more than one occasion.
Okay.
Only from one person.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's well, we won't even go there, but he apparently worked for Walter Cronkite or somebody in another life, and he holds me to that standard.
Well, that's good. You have a very good radio voice.
I appreciate that.
You've missed your calling.
I appreciate that.
But now it's the passion project, right?
Yeah. It's fun. It's like really cool. I don't hate anything, but I would really be disappointed if this ever turned into work. Do you know what I mean?
If you don't feel like that's great.
Fun.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy meeting people and hearing their stories and their journeys and things like that. If I was getting paid to do it, and it would change the whole dynamic.
That's one thing about media with radio or podcasting or terrestrial radio, Sirius satellite radio, whatever. Every day is absolutely new.
Yeah.
You have new guests, you have new topics, you have new Kim Kardashians breaking up with Kanye West. Every day there's something happening.
Yeah.
So it's really not work. You're right. I still feel that way after all these years. I feel like every day, who knows what's going to happen? What am I going to talk about? I do realize too that I won't be like in my 60s or 70s talking about Justin Bieber. So there will be a time that I have to, pivot.
It happens to everyone.
Everybody, right?
It happens to everyone.
I'm not ready yet, but there will be a time. It's just like, let's let the younger ones come in and do that. So
yeah. Well, and that's kind of why I think it's really cool being partnered up with Nick. As I said, he's 21, but he's experienced beyond his years.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been doing this since he was like 13.
Yeah, I asked him off the air.
Does that?
He's like, I started at 13. I'm like, I was playing probably with Barbie still at that point, and he's producing shows.
And so it's like, but I think the dynamic between us, because I actually have a grandchild his age, right?
Okay.
So that swing, that generational swing is it's kind of cool because he looks at our guests from a completely different lens than I do.
Yeah.
Right.
It's good you both have that perspective, different perspective.
It's cool because I've learned a lot from him, although I'm not allowed to touch any of his equipment except for the microphones.
Yeah, I'm afraid.
He lets me set up and tear down the microphones, and I'm not allowed to touch anything else until it's securely in the case, and I can't do any harm to it.
I told you when I came in, this equipment is pretty impressive.
He's don't say that too loud because he'll get all carried away with himself.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's
Big
okay.
head.
It's okay equipment.
Yeah, it's okay equipment.
It's okay equipment.
I got it. It's very
so,
nice.
You go, listen, I mean, Mon Valley, Monessen, Charleroi, we've got all this stuff going on. It's but I mean, I went through that a lot earlier than what you did.
That's okay. So 1992 grad, Monessen High School.
Okay.
Okay. Born and raised. And then I'm never moved outside of southwestern Pennsylvania, which is nice. So Thomas Jefferson, Mount Washington, Baldwin, and then now back into the Mon Valley, moved back into Bell Vernon. 2007, I came back home,
Okay,
I would say.
Sure.
My husband and I didn't want to end up in either of our prior school districts. So he's a South Park grad.
Oh, okay.
I'm a Monessen grad. So we were like, let's not look in those neighborhoods. Just let's look. So I went Washington County. I mean, living in Allegheny County for those 7 years, those taxes were great.
Oh, yeah. That'll get your attention.
So you get more house and less taxes in Westmoreland County. And, everyone's like, oh, you drive all the way to the radio station in Greentree. And I'm like, I'm traveling at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Zero flashing lights. Hardly any lights are on red.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 35-minute commute
At
in
the
morning.
most, yeah.
And I come home 12 or 1 in the afternoon. So, okay, I get a little traffic then, but it's still not, it's not considered a rush hour drive.
Right.
So who cares?
How do you like that schedule? I mean, because you're up at like zombie time.
Yeah.
And
so
you're out and about. And
it's great for kids and grandkids because, I work with Shelley Duffy for years and her daughter at that time was about to have a daughter. But I like it. You get home enough to see your kids off the bus. You're involved with night activities, after school activities, which is great.
Right.
I do start like 7, 8 o'clock. I'm struggle bussing.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I'm older. I'm getting tired at night. And then sometimes you feel games go late or homework. So I only go to bed like 9:30, 10 o'clock, which is too late because my alarm goes off at 3 something in the morning. It's just not enough sleep.
Absolutely.
I can function on 5 or 6. Is it good to give 5 or 6, 5 days a week? Probably not.
Yeah.
So I try to catch up on the weekends. But the schedule's great. It really is.
That's cool.
Good times.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
And you started back at WESA.
I did.
And, the down on the river in Charleroi with, and a lot of my friends went through there. Donnie Henderson, some other guys that were. I grew up with Donnie and
Bruce
those guys.
Akala, Cliff Gorski.
Listen, we did it. Nick and I did a video for North Bell Vernon Borough. Right.
Okay.
They were doing a thing and they wanted to just do something for the community. So we offered to do it. And Nick obviously filmed everything and I wrote the script and Cliff did the voiceover.
Great voice.
Oh my goodness. He's
I learned from them.
That voice.
He does. He really does.
It's really cool.
Yeah. A lot of people.
Yeah, and those guys are all Bruce and those were great guys.
Ted Matthews was who hired me. That's the program director that hired me when I was there. And he was great, awesome. That was his on-air name. Of course, that's not his name in real life, but he's still, to me, is still Ted Matthews to this day. But he was wonderful. Those guys, taught me a lot. And Marianne Ritchie, who's a Ringgold girl, I worked with her there, who now is working at Odyssey Radio. And they were looking for a production director. So she followed me a year after I left WESA. And there's a lot of us at Odyssey that had some tie or connection. Shelley Duffy, Chris Hudak. I mean, the names could go on and on.
Absolutely.
That had that little station, like you said, in Charleroi by the river, produced a lot of people's careers. It really did.
And that's that. We talk about Pittsburgh being such a small town. And that's the proof of it. I don't care what field you are in. I was in engineering for 40 years.
Unbelievable.
And it was the same faces the entire time.
Did that get monotonous?
It did. That's why I retired. I'm doing other things. I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
It was, you can only, you get to a point where there's no dragons left to slay, so to speak.
What kind of engineering?
We did municipal stuff, water and wastewater, treatment, communities, municipal engineering, which is very, very difficult. I can't
imagine.
Yeah, because you're dealing with elected officials and nothing against them.
But that could be hard.
It's very difficult because, and I will always say, the hardest part of that job was the politics, having to deal with that because I'm not a politician.
No.
So speaking of on-air names, I'm very curious about this.
Okay.
Because so Melanie Taylor Bradburn, your married name. I'm married.
Bradburn is my married name. And I have a maiden name.
Which is not Taylor.
Which is Monaghan. Because my mom taught at Monessen High School for 36 years. And growing up, I thought Melanie Monaghan was always a great name. I thought it was
a very cool name.
I thought that was the,
like radio name.
a little moniker for the radio. I thought it would be great. So I get to WESA Charleroi 98.3 and Ted Matthews was like, well, your mom's a high school teacher and maybe someone might not have liked her or just didn't get along with her. Let's pretend you're someone else on the radio, give you like a radio name, even though everybody will know that that's your mom. And I'm like, my first job right out of IUP, college. I'm thinking, this is great. Oh, okay.
Changing your name.
I have a new name and so has a different name. And I'm like, well, I guess that's the thing, right?
Okay.
Whether Kathy Carestis was Kathy Carestis at 98.3, I have no idea. Because of course she worked there too. But anyway, so he was like, I'll give you 3 options. I was like, okay. He was like, Melanie Moon, Melanie Brown, or Melanie Taylor. And I was like, well, Melanie Moon sounds like something else. I'm not sure what. Melanie Brown was a Spice Girl at the time. And I was like, I definitely don't want to be like, oh, that girl thinks she's a Spice Girl or whatever. And I was like, are you sure these are my only options? He's like, yes. I'm like, I'll take Taylor.
You chose wisely, but
that was it. And here we are.
That is crazy.
All these years. So when I left WESA and went to B94, which was a 22-year heritage station in Pittsburgh, which was the former 93.7, which is now, of course, the Fan.
Right.
I asked said boss then, hey, can I go back to, I wasn't married, can I go to Melanie Monaghan? He was like, yeah, absolutely not. We're going to keep you at Taylor because even though WESA was all the way in the Mon Valley, we were able to still hear and pick up that station. So some people you have some followers maybe from the Mon Valley that'll listen to you on B94. Then B94 went away when Howard Stern came in, and I lost my job. So I did TV for 3 years. I went to Channel 4, WETAE. Yep, I did morning traffic. Talked to my boss there. Was married, so I gave him options. I'm like, I got Monaghan or Bradburn. And he was like, absolutely not. You've been on radio since 1998 from 2000 till 2004. We're keeping you at Taylor. So then I left there to go back. B94 came back a second time before it went away for good. And that was a 2-year run from 2008 to 2010. So knew said boss at that time too. And I was like, asking one more
shot.
He was like, don't even ask. He was like, you are literally just Melanie Taylor now. I don't even worry about it.
It's just who you are.
It's just my name. But it is not a maiden and it's not a married. It was Ted Matthews from Charleroi.
Ted Matthews from
Charleroi.
Go.
First boss.
Wow.
I owe it to him, the name.
Well, but
right?
it has served you well. I mean, I'm sure there was some confusion, and you told me the story about your honeymoon, which is hysterically funny.
Yeah.
But share that story real quick.
I will,
because that is it's
kind of relatable. So Bahamas, which is out of the country, that was our honeymoon. We were really excited. My husband's uncle said, for your wedding gift, we'll purchase you the flight tickets to go to the Bahamas. Okay. Everything has to be sort of kind of lined up. Now, mind you, I got married not even a year, months after 9/11. 1 month after 9/11. Oh, wow. So we were very particular on how to get onto flights.
Oh my goodness, yes.
So he thought my maiden name was Taylor, so bought all of the tickets as Melanie Taylor, maiden name into married name. And I'm like, we're like getting ready to leave. Like it was like a day before. And I'm like,
really?
What? Luckily his uncle did work for the airlines and was able to somehow fix it very quickly, or else I wasn't going anywhere because he thought my name
didn't line up with any of your IDs.
Didn't line up with any of my IDs. And listen, those IDs had to end up lining up because I got married at the end of October in 2001. So
wow. Yeah, you would have been like a spy and all kinds of stuff.
They'd have been like, this girl's not, no, been no deal. And I was nervous. Who wasn't nervous to fly that first time after 9/11 anyway?
Well, okay. Yeah, that took some guts.
Right?
That took some guts. I mean, to even get on a plane. Because at that time I was flying a lot for business and I was terrified of it.
See?
Yeah, I'm a reluctant flyer to begin with.
I'm a reluctant flyer to begin with too. I like that. I'm using that. I'm a flyer, but I'm a reluctant flyer.
Exactly.
It's just not my favorite thing to do.
No, it's not. And it didn't have anything to do with COVID or 9/11. It's just, I never
felt comfortable.
Right.
Can you sleep on a plane? Because I cannot.
No,
neither.
No, I have to be, I'd have to be really exhausted.
Yeah.
Like on a red eye, just really wiped out. I could, but I used to travel. My parents they retired. They've lived in Southern California for decades. And when my kids were little, they were 5, 3 and 1.
Okay.
And I used to take the 3 of them by myself and fly to California. But back then,
to see your folks,
you could get a direct flight from Pittsburgh to LA or, something like that. And those were some of the longest,
those kids
with a bunch of kids, and they're hanging all over the place. And, Oh yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Were they good? Do you remember? Were they good on flights or?
They were. They weren't restless because I was always able to take stuff to amuse them, but like
Yeah.
One time when my son I just had the two. So my son was still in a diaper and we were flying home and we took off from LA and he was on my lap. He was sound asleep and he peed all over me.
Yeah, he did.
So I spent 4 hours.
With wetness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not fun.
So, and then I looked like I peed my pants.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get up, but anyway, but it was so different back then.
Oh my goodness. And flying was so different then. I mean, you smoked on planes.
Smoked and the flight attendants were, they would do anything for you. They would accommodate you. And
drinks and food different. Yeah, it's very different. But
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So are you going to the Bell Vernon game tonight?
I am actually not going to the Bell Vernon game tonight. I know. I'm sorry. Don't judge.
Edit this out, Nick.
I don't know where Nick went. But
he's just like, what? He abandoned us.
I still feel I'm not a Bell Vernon leopard.
Mm-hmm.
I respect Bell Vernon leopards. My kids are Bell Vernon leopards.
Sure.
But I'm still a Monessen Greyhound. Do I go to Monessen Greyhound games? No. But I'm saying a lot of the Monessen friends that I've had are just like, you are a total traitor. Like you come back from being Baldwin and now you come back to the Mon Valley and you don't go to Monessen, you live in Bell Vernon. I'm like, come on, like my kids are there. Like I support BVA. Because my kids are, I have a graduate. She's at Penn State, Maine now, and I have an 8th grader. And I may be going to games if she decides to cheer. If she's a middle school cheerleader, but if she tries out next year, I will be at those games for the next 4 years.
Absolutely,
good Lord willing. But I do watch a lot of them online, which is nice.
Yeah,
I stay warm.
Very cool.
Yeah,
that's my thing.
Yeah,
that is my thing.
And I don't know if this is true, but they might have another home. If they do win tonight, there might be another home game on the 17th. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't know if they go straight to neutral site or whatever.
We'll figure it out. And then the 24th, that Friday, is the Whitfield game down at Acroshore. So
down at Acroshore.
Yeah,
and, it's really cool because I have grandson that's on the team. He's a sophomore
on Bell Vernon's.
Yeah.
Well, who?
Yeah, Caleb Horner's his name.
Oh my goodness.
He plays JVs. He the thing of it is he's gotten a lot of Friday night time because they're winning by so much.
Yeah,
so he gets in a lot.
So you're at the games when you can.
We have season tickets. Have to. Right.
Love it.
Last year he was a freshman on the team, and he's got that big giant hideous ring.
Oh
that
my
they got,
goodness, it's huge.
But the thing of it is, now in the playoffs, the biggest decision he has to make is what kind of snacks he's going to get for on the sidelines. But but he's got a state championship ring.
How cool
which
is that?
Really cool. I mean,
I know.
And I tell him all the time. I said, dude, you realize when you become my age, you'll have scored the winning touchdown in a state championship game because it's like, who's going to dispute him?
Who's going to dispute him?
Right. So
nobody's going to know. You're right. So my daughter graduated last year, but she was. I mean, I said, you're part of history. What do you mean? Like Whitfield, PA, site. You're the first class to do that. So when people talk about it, they'll talk about how you were a member of that team, so to speak, class to do that.
That's what it's all about. You don't have to actually have been the star quarterback or anything like that. When your school wins a state championship at anything, that's a really cool thing.
Let me ask you this. When you go to these season ticketed games, do you hear the voice that speaks to asks you to stand and to men take your hats off and do you know who that is?
I do not.
That would be me.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
you did that?
That is me. That's me. So anytime you go to a basketball or a football game in Bell Vernon, that would be me.
No
Coach
kidding.
Hubbard asked me. He was like, well, you want to read that for us? I was like, yeah, sure. No problem.
That's really cool. Matt's a great guy. He's been on the podcast.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. He made it before I did, but that's okay. I still love you.
I mean,
he's a big winner.
You're famous though. See, it's hard to get to you because you've got this world famous made up name and everything.
Made up name.
He uses his real name.
That's really his name. Yeah.
That's really his name. So and we're doing a video. When we're starting Nick and I, we're doing this marketing, little marketing agency, right? Just a little boutique thing, for something to do. And
look at you, I'm just doing something to do. Starting a new thing.
We're trying to create some content, right? So I said, what can we do, for video to kind of, just to get some content to put on a website? And he said, sports looks really good on video. Right?
It does.
So I said, okay. So I thought about it. I said, well, these guys just won the state championship. So, but there's been so much press about, the team, Quentin Martin and all of those things.
Exactly.
Quentin's been on the podcast too. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but
Quentin's been at parties at my house, but yet I didn't make it first on the podcast.
You're like the famous Bell Vernon resident that's been on the podcast.
Three's
that's
good.
Okay.
I'll take 3.
But that's okay. Top 3 is good.
Top 3 is good.
But but you're the first okay co-host that's been on.
Okay.
So
that's right. Bubba did say I was an okay co-host. That's true.
So,
first of that. So
we're gonna have Bubba come on and explain himself, because I
think he should. I think you should also ask him why I can't get my name in the show.
That's why I want to talk to
you get an answer.
We need to know this. Bubba, listen, I know you're going to watch this. And
yes, I'm sharing this on our site.
Call me Bubba, because I need to know why my friend Melanie does not have, it's, I have to know.
I remember Shelly Duffy at the time, because it was Bubba, Shelly, and I for a while. And it was Bubba Show then. And she's like, Mel, just ride the coattails. Just ride the coattails. I was like, okay. Advice from a seasoned veteran. So
yeah, and she's good. She's been around a long time.
And she's married to your friend?
To Paul, yeah.
Yes, Paul and Shelly and I, we get together quite frequently. So
they're good people. And Paul's a pro. I mean, he's really as good as they come at what he does.
He tries to leave radio, and then
it pulls him back in.
He tries to leave, and then
pulls him back in.
Yeah,
that's
good radio people out there. So
Pittsburgh is radio, right? I mean,
I know.
we started it. It all started right here. So that's
and I really hope that people understand that. I understand with podcasting and Sirius satellite radio, that's the new wave of things happening digitally. But with terrestrial radio, you aren't going to get those Friday football shout outs that we did this morning, where your mom and your gram and your aunt get to call up and give little Johnny a good luck tonight at the EF game. Just giving you an example.
Exactly.
The Ryan Seacrests and the Brew, he's a guy that's on our station at night. He's out of LA. He's our night guy, but he's out of LA. And the other night I'm driving through town and I'm hearing him mispronounce Carnegie. And it's like, man, but this is where radio's kind of going. Yeah. And it's kind of sad. And I've not been asked to simulcast or syndicate my show or my name anywhere. No, but it is. That's kind of the way it goes.
Well, I would tell you 2 things. Well, one thing before I ask you this next question.
Yeah.
You are more than welcome to co-host our show anytime you want.
Thank you.
Because here's the thing, because, okay, obviously is much better than what I'm doing now.
No, you're great.
So, so if you want to come and elevate us, feel free anytime.
Okay.
Just let us know.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to ask you is how do you see the impact of podcasting and things like that on terrestrial radio?
Okay. So with our company, they really do talk a lot about the podcasts that our Odyssey app offers. So you can download the app just like you can download any app. And quite frankly, I go on that app to listen to true crime podcasts.
Okay.
I'm a little bit of a true crime junkie.
When
I go walk, I like to listen on my phone. I try not to put earbuds in because I'm walking on highways.
Yeah, sure.
Or streets. So I love that. And they're always asking us to promote that. Listen to Amy Poehler has a new podcast, and Robert Downey Jr. and his wife have a new podcast, which is great. But then I step back and I think, while I'm promoting these podcasts, is that not taking time away from you listening to my show?
Sure.
And Bubba Show and Elista and Kelly and, Frizzy Show at night. And I think, it kind of is. So you get this weird feeling of what corporate's asking you to kind of do and promote and, talk about, to the fact of, well, wait a minute, we have some good content too. So I try to balance it out evenly to give a little love both ways. But not you in particular, but it is sometimes frustrating to see how everyone and their mothers, brothers, sisters, uncle think that they could just develop a podcast.
No, that's very true.
And in their house, in a closet, and talk about whatever. And, I've thought that on occasion, well, I could just do a podcast when that day comes. And I'm thinking, there's so many options. How do you find that one podcast that's just different, that everybody wants to listen to? It's hard.
We thought about that. That was something that I kind of struggled with, because my first, when this was brought to me and say, hey, suggestion you should do this.
Yeah.
My first thing was, who wants to listen to an old guy talk? Right. I'm 64 years old. I'm a grandpa. I don't, who's going to relate to that other than other grandpas?
More people than you think, though.
There's 4. We've counted 4.
Oh, stop.
Yeah, no, seriously. They call in every once in a while and they let us know they're out there.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, so all 4.
4 is better than none.
4,
but you thought that. You thought, what the heck?
What are we doing?
Yeah.
But then, as we started doing it, and because I wasn't a podcast guy. I didn't know anything about podcasting other than, at the time we started, Joe Rogan and Rich Roll. Those were the only two
and
guys.
those are the guys.
Right. So I'm thinking, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Because I've never interviewed anybody in my life, and so, but when we sat and really got into it and I started looking at local podcasts and I try to have other podcasters on this show, right? Because
which is great.
Yeah, because and I've paid attention, and it's funny because if you go back and you look at them all, they're like the guests seem to rotate, because when I started, we wanted to tell interesting stories, like yours, right? So, you mentioned Ryan Seacrest. Ryan Seacrest has a career arc. He's done this, that, and the other, but you've had a really cool career in that same realm, right? You're doing it here. So I would see people being celebrated, on social media, in magazines, on television, and I would think, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I know a guy that does that.
Yeah, I know someone.
Right. So I thought, let's tell those stories. I don't want to interview famous people. I don't want to have, I don't need to have Paul Alexander or,
Bob Pompiani.
I don't need that. I'd love to talk to them because they're great guys, but I don't need somebody with that name recognition to get clicks, to get views. I want to tell interesting stories that the people that are doing really cool things here locally, feet on the ground.
That's great. That's a great idea.
So we just, and I think we all, there's enough for everybody.
I agree. I do agree. I think I'm just overwhelmed with the fact that I'm still in that lane of local radio.
Right.
So like for me to think outside that box of a podcast is like so hard.
Yeah.
Just because I think I'm so used to just doing local radio,
Well,
but change is inevitable.
Career there. Sure, you're almost your entire adult life to this point has been in radio.
Yeah. Never left Pittsburgh, stayed here. A lot of people would have to leave and start at a smaller station and work their way back up and come back home. Never had to do that. So I'm pretty blessed to say that I've not left.
You truly have been,
And it's really nice when Bubba and I talk about it too, because, there's a lot of DJs in and around the city that are not from here. And it's evident, and it's fine. They might be here 10 plus years now and feel like this is home, which is great. But there are a lot of them that are not from here, and they just don't know the whole Pittsburgh Mon Valley thing. And there is a thing.
It is a thing. And you have to be from here to get it.
To get it. And I tried to explain it. You can't. Yes.
You
Bubba can't even understand it.
You cannot explain this.
No.
When I have anybody from the Valley on too, listen, nobody gets us.
No.
Nobody gets us.
It is a different community of people.
It really is.
It's not bad. It's just I can't put my finger on what it is.
We do things differently. We see things differently.
We say things differently. We talk differently.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I was growing up in Charleroi, right? Well, Charleroi had probably 10, 11, 12,000 people. Monessen had like 23, 24,000 people. Denora had like 10 or 11, 12,000 people. So Charleroi, for example, was 1 square mile. 10,000 people in 1 square mile. That's not a small town. That's urban. That's a very urban environment, And so people think we live down in the hinterlands in the country. I didn't grow up in the country.
No.
And although when I moved out to the country in Fallowfield Township, way out in
there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, I had an uncle tell me, my great uncle, he's a sweetheart. He said, James, listen, when you go out there, I want you to promise me one thing. When you're out walking around in the woods and you see a bear, leave it alone. I'm like 6 years old.
Yeah.
Right? Don't bother it. Don't just leave it be. So I spent the first 6 months in our new house wide awake because I thought a bear was going to eat me. So true story, but I was
I don't doubt it.
And the best part of it is we were a mile from out of town from Charleroi. It's like way out there.
Yeah.
But that's how we look at things.
I know.
To go from Charleroi to Monessen, for example, you got to cross a bridge.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
You have to go all the way over there.
But don't you agree growing up in the Mon Valley? And I noticed this, and I just went to IUP is not that big of a school, but I had roommates and they came from all over.
Sure.
Don't you feel like the Mon Valley prepared you culturally and ethnically?
Absolutely.
When I would get to college or out in the real world, just the melting pot in that Mon Valley of the many different nationalities and ethnicities that we had.
Right.
Were absolutely amazing. Yeah. And I would get to school and some of my roommates and friends were so blinded by, my God, I've never seen or I've never been with. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you don't know Greek food? Like, you don't know, let me tell you about Greek food. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they were just so, and I'm thinking that's such a big part of our upbringing is the Mon Valley Cultural Heritage Festivals.
Do you remember how that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Do you remember how big that was? And that was such a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and how many Catholic parishes there were, all ethnic based.
Oh my gosh.
You know, you can go, that's the Irish parish. You know, they were all ethnically based. And, you know, I grew up in St. Jerome's in Charleroi, and it's like, you know, it was literally, that's the best way to describe it. It was like being in a city, what you would think, you know, New York City was like, but only just scaled down.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah, I think it prepares you. I really do. I know it prepared you. I mean, look what you've done. It prepared me. It really does, especially in our careers. You're not so blinded by, you know, being so open-minded too. Yeah,
and I think, you know, although it existed, you know, when I grew up in the 60s, in the 70s, I graduated from high school in 1977, right? So, but I was of age in the late 60s, 67, 68, 69, into the early 70s. That was a very pivotal time in our country. There was so much going on, you know, racially with civil rights and everything. And I never saw it.
No.
I never saw it until I became an adult and would reconnect with some of my friends. And when they would tell me the racism they experienced,
you'd be like, what?
I felt terrible because I didn't see it. This was my friend. I loved this guy.
Yeah.
Right. And it was happening. I never saw it, you know, but that's not, we weren't that. We weren't raised that way.
Not at all.
Know?
And I don't think anyone gets it unless you're born and raised into it. I mean, you could tell the story and then they'll be like, oh no, like, no, believe it.
No, it's true.
It's really true.
It's really true. It's crazy. So tell me about what is your life like now? When you know, I've talked to some really strong, independent women who, you know, I had a young lady on who talked about, she started a foundation. She lost a child at 12 weeks to SIDS, right? And when at that time, she had a 2-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
And the child passed at the nanny babysitter's house during the day. So all of these things are happening. She's a grieving mother, but she's got
a
2-year-old, her husband, this babysitter who was devastated, you know.
Oh my gosh.
How do you feel that becoming a mom, being a mom has influenced you professionally?
That's a great question. I think growing up seeing my mom was a working mom as a school teacher helped me.
I was raised by a teacher as well.
See, and there's nothing wrong with stay-at-home moms or dads.
Not at all.
That is the hardest job. I just know that was not for me. And I think I knew that at an early age. I saw the work ethic that my parents were both school teachers, public educators put in, and I knew that was the route that I wanted to go. I hope now with having 2 daughters, they see that 3:00 alarm clock and me bitching, excuse my language, and complaining about that alarm clock. But they also see that I get up every single day and I have that work ethic and I go there and I show up when I can show up, which is almost all the time for them also.
Right.
Does it suck that I'm not there in the morning? Yes. Does it suck that I get text messages from my one daughter who's 14 now, like, where's my pants? Or I have a sore throat, or my mom does live with me now. Thank God it takes a village.
Absolutely.
She's there. My husband's usually out the door, but you know, mom living with me now really helps. My gosh, does it help? But I think them seeing me be so active in the community and be so active at my job, it's just a chain of cycle of events. Hopefully that'll pass down, you know, to them. Naturally, one child's different than the other. I think one's a little bit more of a go-getter than the other one. You know, one's a little bit more, you know, involved than the other one. But that you don't want your kids to be the same. You know, you have 3.
Absolutely.
And all of them are probably different, which is great. But I think that will help mold and help change the way motherhood looks for them now. And as you know,
that's a great way to put it. It really is
different than it was when you and I grew up. A lot of moms didn't work, which was fine. My mom did. I don't know. Did your mom?
Yeah, my mother, listen, my mother was an entrepreneur before that word was invented.
Oh God, I love this.
She was like, she went to school when I was a kid, right? Because my mother's My mother's had me at 20.
Oh, God love her.
I mean, so we kind of grew up together.
Yeah.
She was a little hippie chick in the 60s and I was in like tie-dye diapers and all that stuff, you know, but she was out doing business and doing those things on her own, they just called her a businesswoman.
Yeah.
That word came about like 40 years too late for her.
And she's making waves.
Yeah, she did great. And she always was professional, always worked, in a professional capacity. And it was interesting because, being raised by teachers, back in the day, my dad did a lot of coaching, right? Because
so did my dad. There you go.
You had to be a teacher to be a coach, right? So it wasn't like, I coached high school basketball at Bell Vernon and at Charleroi, but I couldn't do that back then because you had to be a teacher. So with those different schedules, he was always doing something after school. And my dad and every teacher that I knew growing up, they did something in the summer. They didn't take summers off.
100%. That was my dad. Yes.
So it was like, it was a different dynamic. And, but I probably, Mel, I'll tell you, I would think from about 1969 to 1973, I don't know if my parents had any clue where I was the entire time.
Gone.
Because we just were, you get on the bike in the morning and
that was us.
Yeah.
I just think that is so different now with social media. I don't want to get into that's a whole nother topic for another day.
Yeah, it is.
But we didn't have that then. And I know, you tell your kids or grandkids and they just are like,
oh, I know.
Because you can't fault them. This is what they know.
This is what they've been given. This is what they have been given.
They don't know when you take that away that there's a whole other world out there that you go build a fort in the woods and you come home when you hear your parents call or when the street lights come on, you get home. Right. That's it. So we can't, we can't fault them. But that's awesome to know that your mother was like a businesswoman.
Yeah, she always had that kind of thing.
Yeah.
She was always thinking and creating.
Yeah.
And, I get any success that I had in business. I'm from a personality standpoint, I'm very much my father's son.
Okay.
But from any success that I had in business and with people, comes from my mother.
Come on.
There's no doubt about it. And, my dad had such a powerful presence. He was very well known in the community. He was the most popular teacher in school. We coached, did all these things. So he was very well known. And people people associate, because everybody say, oh, you look just like your dad. I know nothing like my dad. It's like, it's that familiar, the connection.
Where did he coach and teach?
Charleroi.
Okay. There you go. Wow.
Yeah, he was retired long before you even got to high school.
When did he retire?
Early 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, he started in, this is actually his
I was going to say, like the ring. I was like, did you? Oh, he went to Cal. Of course.
He played basketball up there. California State Teachers College.
That's where my parents
Somebody
met.
looked at this one day and said, oh, you graduated from Cal. It says 1956. I'm not that old.
You're like, please no. Jeez, take it easy.
I'll tell you a funny story. My mother, after my father passed in 17. And so my mother, a couple of years later, like a year later, had her 50th high school reunion.
Oh, did she go?
Okay. Well, she didn't want to go.
I get it.
It was like
it's hard.
It was a kind of a quasi 50th, 80th birthday because she was 80. So I said, listen, why don't you come back?
Yeah.
Go to the reunion. You have dear friends you haven't seen in a long time. Mm-hmm. I'll go with you. Get you situated. It was at the River House in Charlotte.
Oh, perfect.
So I said, I'll take you over.
Yeah.
Get you situated. And I'll go. I'll know somebody there. I'll have a beer, Okay, she finally agreed to go. It was the first thing she did without my dad. And my dad, like I said, he had such a presence in that community and in that school district that she just was nervous going without him. So
I get it, yeah.
We go over, and this is the funny part of it. So we go, and a lot of them knew me from when I was a little kid, So, so the woman who was the class president who organized the whole thing. So I'm sitting there, and my mother's loosening up, and she's talking. And so this woman comes over to me, and she says, "Hey, how you doing? I'm so-and-so." And I said, "Hey, how are you?" And she said, "I have to apologize. I don't remember you, but I have to tell you, you look really good." And I'm like, "Thank you." For 80. So I look really good for 80. So I'm holding on to that. I'm holding on to that. Yeah.
Wow. You're
yeah,
like, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So yeah, I tell everybody that. I got a t-shirt made. So, I look really good for 80. But it goes back to that small town upbringing.
I'm
and
telling you,
it is so cool.
It's different than anything else. And I would not change that at all.
Yeah.
For anything.
Cool.
and I talking to Bubba on the air, or some of our Bubba Show family members, we don't call them listeners, we call them family members.
That's cool.
People would, call in, and still to this day, they'd be like, did you ever have Minio's Pizza? Or did you ever have the pretzel shop in the South Side? And I'm like, to go into the city was a big deal.
Huge.
Like, I'm an only child. My parents were making nothing as school teachers back in the day. Okay.
And that was a misconception.
We didn't go out to eat. We didn't do anything.
But did people think that you came from a lot of money?
Because I was an only child. I had everything.
Right.
It's like,
everybody thought teachers were like making,
But to go to the city was like that was a special thing,
It was an excursion.
It was an excursion. And I think talking to some of my coworkers, they get it now, but they didn't in the moment. And some of our people that call in, like we were just talking about a couple of pizza places, Minio's, Aiello's, Vinnie Pies, Vincent's, Fiore's on, a lot of people call in from Beaver County, Armstrong County, Washington County, Westmoreland County. Where are these places at? They don't know. So it's great to now work in the city this many years, right? That I've started to understand and go to different counties. Just radio stations bring you to so many different places. But growing up in the Mon Valley, it was like the Italian Hall in Monessen. We had String Hills in Bell Vernon. Some of the staples that I used to go to. Charleroi places. Come on.
So Armando's,
Rigo's. I lived at Rigo's. So there was those. That was our.
Yeah.
So branching out was a big deal. Yeah. But now, being in Pittsburgh radio,
being a big shot.
Not a big shot. You kind of have to know other things.
An okay co-host. Which is, I'm starting to think that is really
and maybe
he
didn't say okay. Deal. Maybe he did say something better than that. I don't know. I have to give him the benefit of the doubt.
I'm calling him. I'm calling him.
Give you a cell phone. He gives a cell phone number on the air
as soon as we're done, because that we're not standing for that.
No,
we're not. It's bad enough that your name's not on there, but
I think I might hire you as my agent.
I'm in. We should do that.
Need you as my agent and publicist.
There you go. I want to touch on one thing that I saw.
Yeah.
So I Googled Melanie Taylor.
What came up?
Well, actually, a really cool article came up about your dad.
Yes, about the foundation.
About the foundation. So can we talk about that for a second? Because that really hit me. That was so cool.
Okay. So my dad passed away in 2014, unexpectedly, in a very sad way, in front of both of my daughters and my mom, actually, and I wasn't there, which is just a horrible situation, right? And he had open heart surgery at 37. So he had an aortic valve replacement surgery at 37. And outside of a couple of little small mini strokes, my dad was healthy. He was great. He coached golf at Monessen High School for a little bit. He was a school teacher at the Albert Gallatin School District. So that was Deford Swaney and Alfred E. Wilson, some of those districts. And he coached basketball for 14, 15 years. Cool. So he's really active, coached basketball up that way. But when he passed away so suddenly, that was 2014, my mom, spinning wheels, as a former educator herself, she retired in 2004. She was like, I want my husband's name and legacy to somehow live on. What do I do? So she created a 501c3. She had the help from lawyer Mark Shire in Monessen, a former student, great. Good guy. Yeah, good guy. Helped her. It's a process. It took about a year to get that all done. Never knew that 501c3s are that in depth. And she created the Edward V. Monaghan Charitable Youth Foundation, which is for kids disadvantaged with school items. Book bags or pencils or rulers, but also sports items. So maybe they don't have a baseball bat or a ball or whatever.
Glove or something,
And since 2015, we've not had one fundraiser. We have used repeated donors' monies.
Oh, that is so cool.
And these are Mon Valley people you probably know that knew my dad or knew my mom. And just every year, there's a family in Monessen, I won't say their names just in case they don't want to know, they don't do Christmas gifts. They give the same amount of money every year during Christmas time to my dad's foundation.
How cool is that? That's amazing.
And the amount of students, everywhere from locally to even out of state, my mom has helped, because former students reach out and like, hey, Mrs. Monahan, we know your husband has this, you're running your husband's late foundation, and we have a baseball team that's really in need of some helmets, and it's just been really good for her to keep her busy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it's like podcasting. I know that there's so many 501c3s out there, but it's really great. It's really great. And it's a good thing.
It is. And we try to have nonprofits as much as we possibly can, and we've met some tremendous people. The young lady I was telling you about, she
created with SIDS. She created
Little Fox Foundation, right?
Is that a local? Is that a local 5?
Yeah, she's actually from Uniontown.
No way. Little Fox. I got to look that up.
Yeah, you look it up because the story is so powerful, and she is just such a dynamic person. She's somebody that you guys ought to try to talk to.
I would love to. Yeah,
she blew me away. I was nervous about that.
It's a hard topic.
About that, right? That could be a dark topic, and not knowing her, right? And she's young. Yeah. She's my kid's age. She's probably in her early 40s. But she comes in and she gets out her purse and she puts this little stuffed fox in a picture of the baby, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
That takes courage and strength.
Oh my God!
Not sure I could do that. Yeah.
And she said he goes everywhere with her. And she has another child now. And
so she had the older child, and now she had another one.
Right. So the child that was two is 9 now.
Oh my.
Okay. And both of their boys, both of them are involved in the foundation. They honor their brother. They know, they understand. And the 9-year-old, when she told him she was coming on a podcast, she said, "Let me know if he wants me to come on and tell, and I'm like,
that 9-year-old,
we got to have him on.
Yeah,
he's
great.
He's still Bubba. This guy might be.
He might be the co-host.
But there's so much.
Oh my!
There's so many. And Karen Shuley, who we just had on this morning, she had cancer, a very rare form of cancer. 1% of people get it.
Oh my gosh!
So she had to have literally half of her face removed.
Oh my gosh! Was it a skin cancer type
or
no?
It was in a gland. It was,
oh my gosh!
So from here, it disfigured her face, so it's not proportionate. And for a woman and a young woman at the time, that's traumatic.
Oh my gosh!
But her story that she just told us about how her healing journey, and she ultimately started a 501(c) called Face to Face Healing. Face number 2, face healing. And it's like, it's amazing. It's amazing what people are doing and how, to turn, tragedy into
something so
like
wonderful.
That. So, and that's what really struck me about your dad's foundation, because you obviously were very close and
super close.
That in itself, to honor somebody that was that big a part of your life that is then gone, and to fill that void, that had to make you feel good. Not only because it really helped your mom, but also to honor your dad like that.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. If I wasn't so busy too, and there'll be a time when I can dive in more with her and help her. I'd really like to. So yeah. He's a good guy.
You're doing some good stuff.
Thank you.
And I love that, because I'll tell you, I promise you that I know your dad, right? Because I grew up, every influence I had in my life as a child was a guy like your dad, was a teacher and a coach.
I'm telling you.
And that, what's one of the coolest things that happens to me, and we're gonna wrap up here in a minute, but one of the coolest things that happens to me in my day is when one of the kids that I coached when they were in high school, they're now, some of them are 40 years old and they have kids of their own, and they'll come and introduce their son, say, "Hey, coach," and they come, and they'll give me a big hug.
Call you.
And I haven't coached since 2003. It's been 20 years since I stopped coaching because I got really busy. But those guys still, and that just gets you.
Doesn't that make you feel good?
It just gets you. Yeah, it's pretty.
That's
awesome.
a whole nother show you can have. Is the teaching coaching show.
It is,
because unless you experience it, I didn't experience it, but I saw what my parents.
But
that's
you did experience it because you were raised in that, and that's what I'd like to do is have a show with people like us, whose parents were that.
Yep.
My senior year of high school, there were 5 of us whose dads taught.
No way.
Yeah, there were 5 of us, and we grew up together.
That's awesome.
And went all through school together, and and I would guarantee you that if you talked to each one of us, the experience was different.
Oh, I'm sure.
And there were a couple of girls and 3, like 2 girls and 3 guys, but it was just really cool because, we had that familiarity. Our parents were all friends.
All friends. All hung out probably. Yeah.
So we known each other since we were little kids, but it was like, especially because our dads taught at our high school, right? So
that's
it
the
was
difference.
Like, yeah, it was like the rest of the kids, your friends, look at you different.
That is true.
You know?
Did you ever have your your dad in class?
Oh my God, yes.
So I had my mom in class.
First period,
Woo!
social studies, my sophomore year. And you know, that knucklehead put me right in the front row,
Yeah, he
right
did.
in front of his,
Yeah.
And it took about 5 minutes for my friends to realize that when we were doing classwork stuff, if he asked a question, if nobody raised their hand, he was going to make me answer.
Yeah.
And he didn't even give me an A.
No,
I got
I
a
know.
B. Who gives their kid a B?
My mom never helped me. I'd ask at home.
No,
She wouldn't even help me.
Not even close.
I know.
Not even close.
They
I was
treated
on
us
my own.
worse.
Yeah.
Worse.
Yeah, it was harder. Everybody thought,
harder.
oh, you're going to get an A.
Yeah.
No, he wouldn't get. He wouldn't do it.
It's
He
hard.
would not do it.
Yeah.
So, I used to tell my mom on him all the time. So you got to talk to him.
Ma.
But-
Yeah.
So, listen, this has been so cool.
This
I can
has
sit here
been
and talk
great.
to you all
I know.
day.
Hours.
One thing I want to ask you.
Yeah.
So, our mission for this podcast, we building this on a foundation of 5 pillars. Okay.
Okay.
Live, love, learn, pray, inspire. So, my father always told me, if you do these 5 things every day, you're going to have a pretty good day.
That's so
Right?
true.
You will have a pretty good day. At the end of the day, there's no way you can go home and be miserable. Live, love, learn, pray, inspire. Okay. So, what of those 5 things resonates with you and why?
Okay. Great. These questions are so good. Live, love, learn, pray, inspire. Wow. I'm going to say today, pray.
Okay.
So you and I had a few email exchanges before I came here.
Yes.
This week, my uncle passed away. I only have 2 uncles. One's left. And this one I was very close with.
Okay.
And I think, and I don't know about you, we can get into this, but I'm a church goer. I
am
go
too.
every
Yep.
week.
I am too.
Do I struggle with my faith? Every day.
We all do.
Do I get mad that my dad died at 69? Every day.
Yes.
Do I understand the afterlife? No. Do I want to understand it more? Yes.
Yep.
But going into that funeral mass and seeing some things and talking with different people. And I met so many of my dad's friends this week because my uncle and him went to college together. They were friends together. This is his only sister's husband that came up to me and said such wonderful things about my father that in those 2 days, James, my faith was kind of restored.
That is.
And I don't want to say that it was gone.
Yeah.
When I say restored, maybe that's not the right word. It was heightened.
I get it. No, I get it.
And my prayerfulness felt more needed. Does that make sense? And maybe because Thanksgiving and Christmas is on the horizon.
We're getting into that time.
Time of year. And I do. I pray every day. I might be it might be in the car. It might be out loud in my brain or something.
Whenever. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like going once a week, it's just an hour of my time. I feel better when I go. It makes no sense. I've had so many conversations with friends and family like, why? Well, you could just do that at home. And I'm like, yeah. But going makes me feel better. So pray is my word.
I get it. And that makes perfect sense. And thank you. Because, there was a time I've always, there was a time I was away from actually going to mass, going to church, right? And then I made a conscious effort to get back into doing that and getting back into that routine. And now I do it every week.
See?
And I do feel better.
I don't know what it is. I can't describe it.
When I come out of there it's a hard thing to describe. It really is. But I do feel better.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's part of your week and that week ends it and begins a new one? That's on a Sunday if I go. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
That's
I feel
how
the same way. That is so cool.
And I also think with our ages, we're a little bit older, but I think it's so broken with the younger generation. My kids complain. Yeah. My youngest one's getting confirmed this year. But I think a lot needs to change for them to get back.
Well, and I think that's again another conversation because when growing up Catholic, especially again small town,
the guilt.
Oh my goodness,
it's
yes,
ridiculous, yes.
I tell people I was scared to death until I was and then here's
the sins.
They scared us.
Hell yeah.
And then they let The Exorcist be made, and we went.
Then we're like, oh, that happens. Oh, we need to oh, great.
I went to see it with all my buddies. I was a kid. I can't even tell you how old I was, maybe 14 or something like that.
Oh my God. That movie's still called, I know, right?
That was the most terrifying thing that I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Yeah.
No, I can sit and watch it now and giggle, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But I remember in that moment in the theater being terrified.
Horrible.
I used to get I made sure that my buddy Perry McNeil walked me home because Perry was a big dude. And I said, we're going home. I mean, I'm not going by myself.
Yeah.
You dragged me to this. You're getting me home.
Yeah.
So, but that, again, that is such an important piece of, and you know what's the most powerful prayer that you can do every morning? Just wake up and say
thanks. And I'm trying to do more of that. You're right. Just wake up and say thank you.
Just
and the kids I know struggle with a lot of the priests and the man-made laws. And I'm like, put all that aside.
Put it aside.
And just go and do you.
Right.
However you have to do, you know.
Yeah.
Sit
because
there.
it's gonna be different. You and I can sit together in church and again walk out with two different experiences.
Right.
Right. So that's the most important message to kids about church. Just go and be you and see what you get out of it.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
So my words pray for this week. You probably did not think it was going to be that
Excellent. No, I didn't.
And I didn't even think of that until you asked.
Your vibration is like upbeat. I thought you'd go with inspire.
Yeah.
I really did.
Me too. And I didn't.
Yeah, but that's good.
That is good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for this.
I appreciate it. No, thank you.
I'm the third most famous Bell Vernon person that you've had on.
Third most famous. Yeah. And so, well, you know, everybody else was kind of like a little more than okay. I'm sorry. I mean, it's really Bubba's fault.
It is Bubba's fault.
It's Bubba's fault.
Thank you. This was great.
So, Bubba Show, 100.7
5
every
to 10,
morning.
Monday through Friday, 5 to 10 a.m. And then I'm on Sundays, 7 to noon.
Nice.
Yeah, when you're getting up to go to church and pray.
And don't look, not Melanie Monaghan, not Melanie Bradburn.
It's Melanie Taylor.
That's
it.
Well, Melanie Taylor, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you.
This is great. I appreciate you.
Yep, thanks.